Hi, welcome everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Becky Bros. Welcome. Today's practice is going to be a short practice where we'll build awareness about your hips. So when we've talked about the body before, we've mentioned the feet as the foundation and setting our feet properly to align the entire body upwards, knees, hips, spine, shoulders, and neck. Today we want to talk about the pelvis. So the pelvis is at the base of the spine, and the pelvis needs to be stable, balanced, and aligned in order to create stability for the spine above it. So today we'll do several poses so that you can simply get to know your hips. So what's the range of motion of each of your hips? Where are your hips tight? Where are they more mobile? And where are they weaker and potentially need to build more strength in those areas? So a lot of times when we think of the hips, we think of the outer hips. When we're working to stabilize the pelvis, we really want to think of all four quadrants of the upper thighs. So the fronts of the thighs, the quads, the outside of the thighs where the IT band is, the backs of the thighs where your hamstrings are, and then the inner thighs where your adductors are. And of course the glutes on the back side, as well as on the upper outer hips, which is where I think we tend to focus a lot when we think about hips. So let's get started. I have a blanket. For today's practice, you may want a blanket, 2 blocks for the top of your mat. You could also use books or water bottles. They're great substitutes if you don't have blocks at home. So if you're seated on a blanket, find a cross-legged position or find a cross-legged position on the floor. On the blanket, sit right on the edge of the blanket to help your knees descend away from your hips. And then place your palms face down. Allow your eyes to rest on one spot ahead of you or close them all the way. And even though it's a short practice, I think it's always nice to begin by centering in on our breath. So take a breath in through your nose. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And then blink your eyes open. So now that we're grounded, we'll move into the practice. Meet on all fours on your mat, tabletop pose. You have a blanket, can add nice cushion under your knees. So if you have a blanket, place your knees right on the blanket. Then as you come to tabletop pose, place your knees underneath your hips, your palms with your fingertips spread wide right underneath your shoulders. And then find support for your low back. Draw your low belly in. And extend in 2 directions. Send your tailbone back. And then lengthen the top of your head forward as you gaze just ahead of your fingertips. And then take your right knee a couple inches over from where it is. Start to turn your right inner thigh in towards your body. And then begin. Take a hip circle in any direction with your right leg. Imagine there's a marker at the tip of your right knee. Start to draw a circle as you move your thigh bone, your femur, around in your hip socket. As you do this, begin to notice if there's anywhere where your hip seems a little stiffer. So you make the circle. If it catches anywhere, take note of that. And then switch directions. Make big or small circles in the other direction. Getting curious about how big you can make your circle. And then noticing if there's spots that you just aren't quite as, you don't move as smoothly through. All right, come back to all fours. Step your left knee a couple inches out to the outside of your mat. Turn your left inner thigh in towards the center line of your body. And then hip circles with your left knee. So drive your knee forward, up towards the ceiling. And take your thigh bone in and back. Continue to make the largest circle possible. And notice, do you have a greater range of motion in the left hip than you did the right? And then switch directions, make circles in the other direction. Going as slow or as quick. If you go a little bit slower, you really might get to start to notice those places of your hip that need a little more attention. And then come back to all fours. From all fours, step into a lunge with your right foot forward. Your hands can stay on the mat. If you have blocks, you can place your hands on the blocks for some height. And step your right foot in between the blocks. To help your right foot forward, feel free to reach down. Same hand, same ankle. Step your right foot ahead. You are right on the center of your kneecap. Lift your left knee up and then send it back and then lower your left knee down and be just on the very top edge of your kneecap or even just above your kneecap as you place the top of your left foot down on the floor. And then from here, you can keep your hands on the blocks or press firmly through your right foot. Bring your hands up to your waist. A couple things I want you to notice here. So when you rise up, does your pelvis tilt to one side? If so, start to level it. So if your right hip's higher than your left, scoop the outer edge of your thigh down to start to level your hips. If you notice that your left hip wants to open out to the side and you've got more of this openness, find your fingers at your two front hip bones and then draw your outer right hip back and let both hip points face forward as if they were headlights. Now from here, you can stay right here if this is enough as you start to open up your back quad, or firmly press through both feet and shift your pelvis forward. To stay out of your low back, draw your navel in and up. Stay with your hands on your waist or inhale, send your arms overhead. And then exhale, bring your hands down to the blocks. Slide your right knee back. Step your left foot forward into a low lunge. As you step ahead, feel free to use your left hand around your ankle to bring your left foot forward. Again, you can take that back knee adjustment, lift your right knee in the air, shift it back in space, place the top of your knee down, top of your right foot down. This side might be different than the left. So keep your hands on the blocks or press through your left foot. Start to rise up, bring your hands to your waist. Again, notice if one hip's higher than the other. If so, make any necessary adjustments to let the left and right hip be level with one another. If you tend to splay open so that the front of your right hip is out to the side, bring your hands to your hip points like we did on the other side, and then draw your outer left hip back. Rotate the front of your right hip point forward. With this nice neutral pelvis, draw your navel in and up and tuck your lower ribs in. This will help create a neutral spine in your low back. Steady here and breathe, or start to shift your pelvis forward to change the sensation in the back right quadricep as we strengthen the front left quadricep. One breath in with your hands on your waist or inhale your arms overhead. And then exhale, hands down to the blocks. Step your left foot back. Awesome. We'll come to stand at the top of the mat. So you can move your blocks about your shoulder distance apart to the long edge of your mat. Move your blanket out of the way if you have it. All right, stand in the center of your mat and then step your feet wide apart. You can stand them as wide as where your wrists would draw a plumb line straight down to your feet, or go narrower if that's what works in your body. So bring your hands to your waist, gaze down at your feet. Let the outer edges of your feet line up with the short ends of your mat. So all 10 toes will face forward. Your big toes may even face slightly in. Then bring your hands to your waist. And notice, if your hips are tilted, level your pelvis again. Breathe in. With your palms on your hips, exhale, wide-legged forward fold. Allow your pelvis to rotate forward, down towards the floor as you fold forward with a flat back. If you need to bend your knees to help your pelvis come forward, bend your knees enough to help your pelvis come down. Then rest your hands on a chair, the blocks in front of you, or you may fold enough that you can place your hands shoulder distance apart and drop your head down toward the floor. Wherever you choose to rest your hands, firm down through all four corners of your feet, and then draw up on your inner ankles, and continue that line of energy up into your pelvic floor so we can get into your adductors, your inner thigh muscles. Bring your right hand back to your sacrum. Notice if your pelvis, your sacrum, which is the big bone at the base of your spine, is triangular shape. Notice if it feels like your pelvis is level or if it's tilted to one side. If it's tilted to one side, level your sacrum and then press your hand up into your sacrum. Replace your right hand down to the floor. Inhale, lift up halfway. You can rise to your fingertips. Keep your hands on the block or the chair. Exhale, bring your hands to your waist. Keep your legs straight or bend your knees. Draw your belly button towards your spine to support your back. And then inhale, rise all the way up. So you exhale, step, hop, or walk your feet back to center. Breathe in and breathe out. Notice any sensation through your legs. And then step your feet your hip distance apart. We're going to balance. If you think you'd like to come to a wall, you can come to a wall and place your fingertips or your whole palm on the wall. So with your feet hip distance apart, stand firmly through your left leg and rise onto your right tippy toes. Notice if you shifted all your weight over to the left and kicked your left hip out to the side. If so, firm back through your left foot, drop on your left kneecap, and then hug your outer left hip in towards an imaginary midline. Inhale, tree pose. Bring the sole of your right foot to your ankle. You can keep your tippy toes on the ground for stability, or raise your right foot to your calf. Final option, place your right foot to your left inner thigh. Press your foot and leg into one another. Avoid the knee. Place your foot above or below. And then externally rotate your right inner thigh. Open it out to the side of the broom. Hug both hips in, outer hips in towards center, creating stability and alignment in your pelvis. Inhale, take your right knee forward. And then exhale, bring your right foot back down to the mat. Shift your weight over to your right leg. Firm through your right foot. Drop on your right kneecap. So right away, create that firm standing leg. Rise onto your left tippy toes. Notice, if we set the leg up like that, your right outer hip will probably stay in. If not, hug it towards center. And then inhale, tree pose. Turn your left inner thigh and knee out to the side. Place the sole of your left foot to your ankle. Lift it up to your calf, or press it into your right inner thigh. As you breathe here in tree pose today, keep your hands on your waist and focus on hugging your right leg towards your left foot and hugging your outer hips. Draw them in closer toward one another. Breath in. Turn your right knee forward, left knee forward, and then exhale, bring your left foot down to the ground. All right, so you may have noticed if you kicked a hip out to the side in either of those balancing poses, your glute medius may be a little bit weaker on one side or both, and then we build stability there. All right, so let's come down to the floor, and we'll set up for bridge pose. So lay all the way down on the ground. Place your feet your hip distance apart. If you have a ponytail, feel free to take it out. If you have shorter hair, rest your head right back. Then bring your arms by your side. Settle your feet into the floor. Inhale, bridge pose. Ground down through your feet. Keep your knees aligned with your ankles as you lift your hips up off the mat. As you breathe here for today's variation, keep your hands right by your side and press your palms down into the ground. Leave your feet where they are, but energetically hug your heels back toward your shoulders. As you do that, you may feel your hamstrings ignite and your glutes, your buttock muscles firm. So we'll stay here for a few breaths. If you want to come down before I cue it, go ahead and come down. So building strength in the back side to help support the pelvis. Breath in. Exhale, lower down. Come to broken bridge. Step your feet as wide as your mat. Roll your knees in toward one another. You can rest your hands on your belly. As your thighs internally rotate, they turn in towards your midline. You create space at your low back. We'll close today's class with a wide-legged twist. So keep your feet hip distance apart. Take your knees out. Shift your hips. I'm going to move all the way over, actually, to create some space to twist. Extend your arms out into a T. Shift your hips over to the right a few inches. Breathe in that center. And then exhale, supine twist. Allow your knees to fall to the left side. Keep your neck neutral. Look straight up at the ceiling. Or give a gentle stretch to your neck. Look over to your right thumb or close your eyes. This allows you to start to open up the right outer hip and the right IT band. Inhale, come back through center. Lift your hips up, shift them over to the left of midline a little bit. And then exhale, supine twist to the right. Let your knees fall to the right side. Look straight up to the ceiling. Or gaze over to your left thumb. As the outside of your left hip and your left IT band, the outer edge of your left thigh open up. Just notice the difference between the left or right side. Noting which side may be tighter, which may have more flexibility. Inhale, come back through center. And then exhale, I highly recommend you come into Shavasana, final relaxation. Extend your legs long, separate them any comfortable distance, and bring your arms by your side. If you feel ready, allow your eyes to close all the way. Release any effort. Allow your body to settle and your breath to return to its normal rhythm. Stay here for 5 or 10 minutes, whatever works in your practice. I'm going to come to a seat and close us out today. So thank you for joining me. I hope you learned a little bit about your hips, where you're strong, where you're tight, where you're flexible. If you want to learn more about how to now strengthen and lengthen and build flexibility so that you have more mobility, please consider checking out my signature program, Whole Body Reset, Refine and Realign. It's a 5-week program designed to teach you about your body, and through yoga, we'll then build strength and flexibility to help give you more ease and mobility and get you feeling the best in your own body. So thanks for joining me today. The light in me sees, honors, and respects the light in you. Namaste.